Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got a fun and interesting episode for you guys this evening, because normally we'd be talking about the most recent monthly MAME update, 0.278. Last month we had MAME 0.277, but this time around the MAME team is going to be delaying the release until next month, because there's going to be a metric crap ton of new improvements coming to your favorite arcade emulator. MAME 0.278 is going to be a huge update, and it's definitely going to be worth waiting for. So I'm going to go over all of the things I know are going to be included in MAME 0.278 when it does release. Before you get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But you'll see here, as of the 15th of May, the MAME team said that 0.278 is going to have their new fabled sound stream system. There's going to be a lot of sound updates to MAME 0.278 when it does release, and we're going to go over all of those. But honestly, every single release of MAME this year has been an absolute banger as far as I'm concerned. MAME 0.277 having all of the Konami GX fixes with some of the most fun stuff to see, and I have been previewing some of the Model 2 emulation improvements as well. I'll be going over a lot of those in this video because they are going to be pertinent next month. MAME 0.278 is going to be absolutely lousy with a ton of improvements. I've been going through some of the GitHub notes and commits, and it's going to be a fun time. But if you're still on an older version of MAME, something older than 0.277, I can't recommend enough. Upgrade your MAME today. There's been so many new innovations in 2025. You owe it to yourself to check it out. And I know a lot of people have been asking me about Sega Model 2 emulation because I've been previewing it on the channel, but people go and download MAME 0.277 and don't get the same result, and I explain to them that you can build nightly MAME commits, and honestly they're not even called nightlies, that's just what I like to call them personally. Every time there's a commit to the GitHub code, you can go ahead and build that version of the game and get those new improvements. So it's one of those things, for 99.9% of people, you're not going to see them until the monthly release, but you can do that. So going over this commit right here, this is for the Model 2C-CRX. And I want you to remember that Model 2 is not one arcade board, it is a family of boards. The original Model 2 is going to be different than the final revision of it, and this is going to improve some of those -2C-CRX games. And if we go over the code, you can kind of see what that's going to be doing. It's going to be for the 3D rendering. So if we move over to System 16 and take a look at the 2C-CRX hardware, you will get a full list of all of the games that run on it, and those have been a lot of the games I've been previewing for you, like Dynamite Cop here or Dynamite Deka 2, an absolutely wild beat 'em up. So if you go into MAME 0.277 today and try to run this game, you're really not going to see anything as far as actual graphics rendering on the screen are concerned. That's because I have been using different builds, as well as the Cool Pup, the moderator of my Discord, to help me capture some of this footage. And this is how we do it. We basically just use those builds with all of the new commits to be able to actually obtain the footage and talk about what's going to be coming to MAME. Now, I would not recommend most of you use this whatsoever. I would stay on these stable monthly releases. But if you do want to play around, I will show you in a little bit how to actually grab auto builds of these new improvements. Or something like Sega Super G here. This is going to be something that it seems like in MAME 0.278 you're going to be able to play, because the commits are actually included in the code that you can build right now. So next month, hopefully by the end of June, you're going to be playing a lot more Sega Model 2 on MAME. And this has been one of the most requested improvements as far as my comments are concerned. Every time I show you footage like this, everyone gets absolutely excited about it. You'll be able to see stuff like the House of the Dead come in, and that's going to be incredible, because as good as the Model 2 emulator is, it has been something that's been abandoned for a long time now, and there's not going to be any improvements coming to it. So if we want to see better Model 2 emulation, it's going to end up in MAME. And because the House of the Dead is just such an incredible game, the best way to play it outside of original hardware is going to have to be something like MAME, until maybe one day someone decompiles the source code and recompiles it to a native PC version. We talked about that recently with Sonic the Fighters being the first game that was decompiled, at least to assembly code. A very popular thing for Sega back in the day was to use assembly, and hopefully soon we'll be seeing a lot more of the House of the Dead in MAME, probably about 30 days from now. But I'm going to give you a soundtrack sample as to what it's going to sound like in MAME, then I'll talk about some more improvements coming next month. And it seems like next month, that's what you're going to hear coming out of MAME 0.278, because it's going to have these changes merged into it. And we're going to get a little nerdy here, but I know you guys love when I do that, and you love when I say we're going to see how the sausage gets made, because this is basically the commit and the code changes as well. There's going to be a metric ton of stuff in here, and honestly, if it doesn't make any sense to you, that's totally fine. Even I have some difficulty parsing it, and it's one of those things I like to go through this to see what's coming. But just taking a look at some of the actual commands here and some of the code, you have if-else arguments here, and they're just basically jumping around to different memory addresses. You'll see there the 0x40. They have another one down here, 0x20. It is completely meaningless. This is just how this actually emulates. And trust me, there's a metric crap ton of lines of code that have changed for next month's release, and there's a metric crap ton of code in there that's already existing. So it's going to be one of those things. Getting Model 2 in MAME is going to make 2025 that much better, and it's going to come out in June. Now, if you want to actually download these builds, I'm not going to teach you how to actually build them on GitHub. If you need to know how to do that, definitely not the channel for it. You probably already know how, but there is a website that'll auto build. You'll see here the most recent one was from May 26, 2025. It even provides a time, and obviously you're watching this on May 27, 2025, so this would have been a little bit under 24 hours old as of the recording of this audio. So if you do want to play around with these auto builds from new commits, I will leave a link in the description below, but don't ask me for any support for them. They are not the type of thing that is ready for prime time yet. Now, as far as that sound system is concerned, nothing really to show because audio is not my specialty, and it's one of those things that will give you sound samples next month, but you're going to be able to use emulated microphones and a ton of other audio inputs with MAME. So this is going to be a big under the hood improvement. Now, if you ever want to track the real-time changes and get excited for what's coming, there is a list as well, and I will leave a link in the description below to all of the different changes and commits. I'm going to use an older one as an example here and then show you where all of the new ones are, but you really need to understand what it is you're reading, because a lot of this is kind of just like a secret language if you're not into arcade hardware. One line to me stood out, even if it is a bit old, and that's Taito Wolf _zoom, and basically the change is preliminary zoom hookup. Now, if that doesn't sound familiar, zoom is arcade hardware and synthesizer hardware that would basically just do the sound on boards, and Taito loved it. If you want to look to the minute real-time changes here, you'll see when I recorded this 22 minutes ago, there were some changes to an xaudio2 _sound file. What does that mean? I have absolutely no idea. Some of these things make sense to me, and some of them are basically just obscure language. But as far as tracking the changes, it can be a ton of fun. And again, as an example, something like the Taito Wolf arcade board only had one game for it, and that is Psychic Force 2012. I showed the board last year. It is an incredibly rare board. There's not many out there, and they love to break, so luckily I was able to actually obtain one and get some footage off of it. But that's why MAME is such an important project, and stuff like zoom sound hookup is just good, because honestly, experiencing this game, unless you play the Dreamcast version, if you want the arcade original, it's near impossible. And if you're wondering what the zoom sound hardware sounds like, go ahead and listen for 45 seconds, and I'll be right back with just a bit more.
Ready, go!
It's got a really good sound to it. Honestly, it is some of that more esoteric hardware when it comes to arcade boards, and if zoom sounds familiar, maybe you're a musician, because a lot of their chips ended up in different keyboards and synthesizers, creating some iconic music out there. But that is why MAME is so important. Tracking all these changes are important, and talking about all of it is important as well, because you don't want to have a closet full of arcade PCBs like me, just because it takes forever to keep them running, and those are the zoom chips they're talking about right here. So honestly, is it a little bit of a bummer that MAME isn't going to have a May release? I could totally understand if you're disappointed. It would be fun to make a new update video on my end as well, but the reality is it's going to be well worth the wait, because you're getting their entirely new sound system, you're getting the commits on Model 2, and a bunch of other stuff that I just didn't include in this video. So when the new version of MAME goes live, 0.278, expect a video from me. It's just going to end up being in June, but I expect a lot of fun things out of MAME 0.278 because there's going to be so much innovation in it. And honestly, while I love MAME, I would say 2025 is the most exciting year for them in a while. We're getting so many new things, we're getting so many new fixes, and hopefully by the end of the year, something like Model 2 emulation might be buttoned up. But remember, just because we get a big bulk innovation doesn't mean that it might take another year or two for someone else to come along and decide to end up actually finishing the job, because I do believe some of the filtering in Model 2 might not be in those commits, so you might have to be patient and wait for it to change in the future. But as soon as MAME 0.278 goes live, I will let you guys know, and if you want to see any testing videos on other arcade platforms and how they're doing in MAME, recommend me some platforms down below, because I do love covering the project, because at the end of the day, all I want you to do is play more arcade games, and I want them to be more accessible for everyone. You don't need to collect them like I do, and honestly at this point in time, so many of the things in my collection are just there because you can't actually emulate them properly. But short of that, we're done, and we'll see you for the next MAME video soon. Bye bye.